Hello, everybody. This is Lorraine.
And Jennifer.
And today we're going to dive into metrics again. And I know you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, you guys always talk about metrics. Well, number one, metrics is important. But today, what we really want to do is focus on what do you measure at each stage in the process? Because depending on where your funnel is breaking down, depending on where your leads are bleeding off, you need to be paying attention to different numbers.
That is an excellent point. Just recognizing A, that we don't go straight from ready to buy, and B, that there is somewhere along the funnel where people are getting lost. And so you got to understand the metrics at each different funnel.
So obviously, let's start at the top of the funnel.
Yeah.
The metric: how many leads did we get? That's a good one.
No.
No.
We're not talking about how many leads you got at the top of the funnel. We're talking about reach, in social media. How much reach did you get? Did people engage? Email sign up rates. Are you adding more people to your list? Website traffic. I actually care where traffic is coming from for different sources. And then I might actually, if I do offline marketing, like event attendee numbers, the number of leads collected at an event, brand impressions for sponsorship, like those, that's all, top of funnel type awareness.
So really, top of funnel is all the things that you need to measure before someone puts their hand up and says, "I think I want a conversation."
Correct.
And it was interesting. I could draw a correlation between how many people signed up for my seminars. I could predict how many conversations I would have after the seminar and then how many people I ultimately would close, because those were way, way more qualified prospects than how many people called in on the phone and said, "Hey, I found you on Google."
Yeah, they don't know who you are. That's the reason that brand awareness and awareness type marketing is important, is they can become more familiar with you and start to understand who they are. Those really cold leads are crap. They really
Mhm.
won't be good clients. They won't understand who you are.
When you start moving down the funnel, one of the metrics that I used to look at was, where did custom prospects come from? So, how many of my prospects came from the referral side of the house, and how many came from the advertising side? Were you introduced to me because I worked with a friend of yours? Did you attend one of my seminars and then feel motivated to have a call? Versus, I handed you my business card at a speed networking event.
Yeah. 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 I was like, I'm not gonna go there. I went to one lately and I was just like, yeah, I don't know, I can't do this.
Yeah, I mean, and there are times that's good when what you're trying to do is build brand awareness. I'm not going to diss the speed networking events, but recognize when you do that, that your goal is brand awareness. And
Yeah.
so it's, how many people do you talk to and how cohesive is your message?
Yeah.
Not did you sell them, because you ain't going to sell them at a speed
Yeah.
networking
If
event.
if you if you go to the right events and you talk to the right people and you sponsor the right events because your target audience is there, that brand awareness will pay off later when they are actually ready. Not forgetting that one major factor that only 3% of the population is even ready to buy at the time, like it's a small percentage. So I did not start in marketing thinking awareness was important, but I have learned very much so over the years that it is very important. I'm going to go to an event and I'm going to be sponsoring, I'm going to be doing promotional items, like I'm going to be doing all kinds of stuff.
Mhm. Because especially, and we talked last week about that whole local If you're really trying to build that community, you have to be visible and a part of the community. So you're coming down the funnel, measuring the soft impressions, reach, web traffic, brand awareness. Do people know who you are? You
Yeah.
start getting those leads and you start looking at where did they come from? What else do you do at that first level of lead? What other metrics are you using?
I think I've probably given everything that is at that, top of funnel awareness. I think the next level for me is that middle of the funnel where maybe they actually did make it to my website or they did actually sign up for some sort of email that I did. There I then want to know, are people actually spending any time on my website? Are they looking at multiple pages? Are they scrolling down? Are
Mhm.
they opening up my emails? I could spend a lot of time right there because if I got a lot of awareness and then they get to my website and they're not doing those things, I've got big problems with my content, my messaging, and all kinds of stuff.
And that's a real warning signal is if you have a lot of leads at the top, but then very few come through to that next phase, you need to really be looking at what are you presenting people at the top of the funnel? What kind of information are you offering them to encourage them to take that next step? And that's where one of the things, and I don't know that it's really as easy to measure, but it's where you start looking at how qualified are the leads. Are you getting a lot of leads from college students? Are you getting a lot of EDU addresses signing up for your newsletter? Well, that's great that you're educating the next generation, but they ain't going to buy.
Right.
Are you getting a lot of leads that actually are company email addresses?
Yes.
That's telling you that somebody is serious about their business and they seriously want to be on your radar.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you could just have, your fans that just like to see your content. Could be your colleagues. It could be people like that. And so, they might be very engaged, but they're never going to be your client per se.
No. And I think that's one of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they're sharing stuff on social media. They're getting a lot of engagement, they're getting a lot of conversation, and they're like, oh, I'm knocking it out of the park. I'm really winning. But who are you winning with?
Yeah, yeah. I have a newsletter, with 45,000 people signed up. When I start really breaking that down, um, I'm okay that it's 30%, but only 30% of those are actually in my target market
Mhm.
of who I want to talk with. So that other 70%, depending on how you want to look at it, that's great that they're following, but they're not my target audience.
No, but then that's a really good realistic assessment of how big, how much of that list is really good prospective customers. So now you have a more realistic number. It doesn't matter how many people sign up for your offer.
Yeah.
If the first time you send them something that's more sales oriented, they unsubscribe.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. They're not even, and it's okay to have unsubscribes. Like it's
Mhm.
okay to narrow that down. I don't know how you feel about this, but I do kind of like this strategy of like building up and then okay, let's narrow the list down. Like
Oh yeah, I mean, I love getting lots of new people, but then if those people don't open an email from me in 6 months,
it's
I'll
point.
send them a note and say, "Hey, I noticed you're not really opening it. Do you want to be on the list?" "Oh yeah, keep me on the list." "Don't hear from you? Bye-bye now." I mean, I took my list at one point, it was 12 or 15,000 people. I took it down to 2,500, but those 2,500
Yeah.
open my newsletter every week
It's
and they click through. And that's the other thing. They click through to the articles, to the podcasts. And that's what I want them to do. So I don't care about the other people
I think
because
that's
they
a
don't.
good one for us to talk about, a re-engagement campaign.
I love that idea. I love that idea. Okay, last bit. I'm at the bottom of the funnel.
Yeah.
What should I be measuring?
So there's what I like to call like pre-conversion engagement metrics, or they're not key events, but they're events that are happening on your website. So maybe there's like certain button clicks or certain elements on your website that if somebody interacts with those, they're definitely into, ready to buy. So you want to know that because it could be stuck somewhere where maybe the form's too long or it's too complicated or the process to sign up doesn't work. Look at time on page and page views on critical pages.
Mhm, mhm.
Critical end of the funnel, are they actually ready? And then obviously conversions or key events, as G4 likes to call them now, those are definitely great, but look at it as a whole. Is your overall website performing? Don't attempt to try to break it down by channel because you're going to just have way too many attribution problems for that to be true.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, the very last metric is, did they become a customer? And this is where sometimes you have to move from online to offline. You have to evaluate how good was your sales presentation?
Yeah.
How good are you when you're face to face with a customer? And do you know your closing rate?
Yeah. I'm going to say there's actually one more.
Okay.
I'm going to say, do you keep them as a client?
Ah,
Because there's certainly a lot of people you can maybe close, but you can't keep them as a client and keep them coming back. And it's harder to gain a new client than it is to keep an existing client. So I think that, keeping them
that
all happy is definitely an important aspect.
absolutely. And there is a certain amount of natural turnover, but if you find that you're turning over more than usual, more than your peers,
Yeah.
you need to really look at how you're treating your clients.
That, or you're saying yes to someone who should be a no.
Absolutely. All right, guys, if you want to know how to build your sales funnel, if you are interested to figure out if you're in our sales funnel, we'd love to chat with you. I love talking to service professionals, solopreneurs, coaches, consultants, as well as startups. And Jen?
I like to work with more established businesses, probably not your first rodeo on doing any kind of marketing or online marketing. I too like service businesses, but definitely healthcare, event type marketing, travel industry. We do really well with those as well.
Awesome. Well, we would love to hear from you and come back next week. We'll have another conversation.
All right, take care.
Bye now.